Morning everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about Ben Hogan. I'm going to just walk through Ben Hogan's golf swing just like we would in the modern fundamentals of golf. 5 separate lessons, and this is lesson 1. I've already taught this in a number of ways, but we're going to teach it from a perspective of Ben Hogan and what I've learned by chasing him over the last 10 years. Of course, you got to start with the grip. In his book 5 Lessons, he talks about leveraging the golf club, which I find to be incredibly important. I believe that leverage is the key to a repeatable golf swing because, again, you're utilizing physics, which never changes, biomechanics, which changes very little, and geometry, again, which never changes. So you've essentially minimized every single variable possible, and the only thing you have to rely on day to day is getting loose. Pretty simple to do. If it's nice out like today, it's about 60 degrees, very little wind, you're going to be hitting a very repeatable biomechanical space in range of motion, etc., etc. So you're going to be okay. If it's a little bit colder, you actually are going to hit it even straighter because you're going to be stiffer. And when it's a little bit warmer, you might be a little bit looser, but you'll have more speed. So to me, it's an advantage to use leverage in the golf swing in unison with biomechanics and geometry. In other words, how you set your clubs up, whether they're flat or upright, whether you play offset or not, how you forward shaft lean, reverse shaft lean, etc. It all will contribute to a repeatability that you can't find anywhere else. And I believe that's what Hogan figured out. I believe that was his genius. So if you guys like the idea of that, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me. This is lesson 1 of 5. And again, we're starting with the grip. So this is the left hand. If you're a right-handed golfer, obviously, or sorry, if you're a left-handed golfer, obviously this will be the right hand. It'll look a little something like that. Okay. Talks about right hand. We want to put it into our 2 fingers, like so. Okay, you got to be able to hold it like this too, because you're essentially going to be using these 2 digits to leverage the golf club through the strikes. If you don't hold it like so, if let's say you hold it in the palm of your hand, you're going to be limited to a full range of motion, so you'll lose speed. And the first thing you have to understand about grip is that the proper grip will give you 360-degree access to your wrist joints in both directions. Let's get it right. My wrists are a little bit stiff today, but as you can see, I pretty much have full access to 360 degrees of motion. Okay? Now, the club moves around a little bit. It needs a little bit of movement in here to get that 360 degrees because essentially our wrists are only so mobile. So if I take it to here and I go to there, the club's going to come out. But if I'm leveraging it, I'm going to be able to maximize pretty much that full motion. So we've got maybe a 10-degree gap, and it's the same with the right hand. Go this way, so we have 360 degrees of motion. Give or take. I mean, obviously some days you're going to have a little more, some days you're going to have a little less, but for the most part, once you're warmed up, you have 360 degrees of motion. So that's the first goal of anyone trying to work on their golf grip, in my opinion, is to get full range of motion through the joints so that you can utilize the most important part of the golf swing, which is the forearms. Now, Hogan talked about supinating, pronating, supinating. Now we know he did ulnar deviation, among other things, through the strike, right? We understand too that in the backswing now we have to hinge up. So as we're going through our grip building process, the most important thing you can do in a golf swing, there are a lot of ways to go about it. But I have found one specific way, and I've already taught it. It's called the waggle. If you allow the club, so in other words, if you take your arms and you attach them to your rib cage at the elbows, just like the Hogan video that I showed you in my last video, and you allow the club to swing using gravity, and just take a very light grip, guys, like maybe a 1 out of 10. Just start it with leverage. Get it in the fingertips. Okay, make sure it's as close and one piece together as you can get. And again, this is going to take some time. This isn't going to happen overnight. And then just let it swing itself. Don't let it go anywhere. Just let it swing itself. And what you'll start to see is there's an arc and a natural movement to the club head. Notice how it wants to turn over in both directions. I still have a perfect grip on the club. I haven't let go of any of my leverage points. And that's what's important in a grip. So, how do we train that? Well, the waggle to me is the best way because it gives you a feel of the release of the golf club as you're waggling. So that when you hit it, you have that same feeling through the strike, which essentially is going to be right here at our index finger. And I want you guys to see how much damage I've done over the years. I've calloused this finger so much. And again, I've put tape on it occasionally, but this is where everything happens through the strike. And I want you to think about it as an artist with a paintbrush. If you have the ability to use your full wrist joint, think of the lines and the artistry you can have. Instead of locking everything down and getting into a bowed wrist position and holding it all off, you're going to have the ability to adjust athletically on the fly. i.e., you're going to be able to react to your target. So that is why working on this part of the golf swing is more important than anything else, because it's the only thing, it's the last line of defense. If your body breaks down and your legs and your arms and everything breaks down, if you have access to your wrists, you can do just about anything at the bottom and get away with it. So, I've said we're going to train it with the waggle. Here's how I want you to actually train it. First, you're going to practice getting leverage in the left hand. I want you to get a good levered. I mean, you need to be, not here. Let's zoom in on that. And you ought to be able to bring it from the top to the bottom by simply hinging your wrists. Very, very simple stuff. And it shouldn't go left, it shouldn't go right, it shouldn't come out of your hand, you should be fine. Don't try that movement right away. I have very strong hands, very strong fingers because I've worked on this for years. If you look closely, you can see the amount of calluses that I've built up over the years, including this one here, which it's actually not that strong right now because I haven't been hitting a lot of balls. But as you build up these calluses, you're going to realize why Ben Hogan didn't wear a glove as well, which to me was one of his biggest secrets that nobody talks about. We'll get into that one day, but today we're just going to stick with, I want you to work on getting this here at home, the ability to do this in control, perfectly up and down, just like so. And then the next thing I want you to be able to do with the right hand is I want you to be able to hold it in your right hand and twist it both this direction and that direction without the club coming out. That's simple. You can also work on this, but you don't have leverage because your left thumb is going to be your fulcrum point for that. So when we take our grip, our left thumb is actually going to apply the pressure there. So we don't really want to work up and down a whole lot with the right hand. But if you want to, put it in the palm of your hand, wrap the two fingers, and work this motion. The reason we're going to work this is because at impact, as we're coming through the strike, we have toe droop. Okay, so we need access to all three-dimensional planes of our golf swing. Okay, so now you've got this point here, you've got this point here, you bring it together and you waggle and you let the club do whatever it wants to do, and then once it feels stable, you set into it, you prepare to swing, aim at a target, you let it go. And with any luck, you'll hit a good shot. Again, just going right over the top of this blue flag here, just to give you guys an idea of what you're looking for. So let's talk about what happens if you're hitting it, let's say, thin. So this is an 8-iron. Just making some smooth swings for you guys, not really trying to pound it. I would highly recommend when you're working on your grip, you take your swing down to about 25 to 50%. But let's talk about what happens if you're hitting it thin. Okay? If you're hitting it thin, most likely you don't have the ability to corner deviate or bow the wrist, right? Which means, in most cases, you probably just have way too strong of a grip, and your wrist doesn't have the ability to hold this position without getting pulled out of alignment, which will then send a reflex up your arm to make your shoulder and arm do something weird. I'll get into reflexes later because that's another huge secret of Hogan's, but for now, let's just stick with work on having a grip that's neutral to start. This will give you the most access. In other words, have your thumb directly down the center of the shaft with the V pointing either at the center of your chest or to your right shoulder. Anywhere in here will give you plenty of access to manage the leverage of the golf club properly. And again, utilizing this fulcrum lever setup. Okay. From there, we're going to take our right hand. Again, if we're hitting it, if you have a grip like this and you're hitting it thin, it probably means you've got the club in this part of your fingers instead of this part of your fingers. So make sure it's going down the second level of your fingertips, right? So from the tip of your fingers down, there's one level down. We want our fingers right there, okay? So from there, notice now I have the ability to release the club, toe droop it, and not be out of wrist alignment. Okay? Boom. That will take care of a thin shot. If you're hitting it fat, and you have this all set up properly, more than likely you just aren't strong enough. So continue working your levers, continue working the spin. All right, so that concludes the lesson. That's lesson 1. Again, there's a lot more to this. For now, at home, work the leverage, work the strength of these two fingers, make sure that you're placing the fingers, you're placing the grip into the fingers in the center, holding it like so. We don't want it here, it's too easy. We need it here so we have full access to our wrist. If you have any questions, any comments, if you like this, if you want more, just subscribe. Ask, guys. This is what I do now. I'm having a great time with it. I'm looking forward to helping you. So let me help you.